full moon in the sign of Sidereal Scorpio, specifically in the lunar mansion known as Anuradha, or the lotus flower. This will be our topic for today, during which we will explore the ideal way to observe and bring the maximum benefic effect to our lives while transiting this specific lunar transit of the full moon in Scorpio. We're very grateful to be offering you these reflections and forecasts to support your evolution with the help of the stars. And our humble request is to support our channel by liking, commenting, saving, and subscribing. What is a full moon? The full moon is the emotional peak of every solar season. We know that we go through these different seasons as the sun transits through each zodiac sign. So the sun's placement brings the light and the awareness, the consciousness that we discussed in our previous video about the sun's transit in Taurus. And now as a result, the sun receives the reflection of the moon from the contrasting zodiac sign. We know that the moon becomes full when the moon sits directly across the sky from the sun. What happens when the moon sits directly across the sky from the sun? It sits in the directly contrasting zodiac sign. The zodiac signs, like a wheel moving around our planet, are constantly contrasting each other. So the ideal effect of balance can actually be found during the full moon, and in that the channel is open where the sun's consciousness and awareness in one zodiac sign is then reflected back to him from the moon in the contrasting zodiac sign. Of all of these contrasting zodiac signs, the contrast between Taurus and Scorpio could arguably be considered the most intense. Taurus representing groundedness, Taurus representing safety, consistency, and Scorpio representing change, desire for change, transformation, unearthing. So this Taurus desire to be safe and consistent is now challenged by the lunar desire for change and transformation. Taurus, in its weaker, undesirable state, does not want to move things around for desire to not complicate the environment. In Scorpio, when an environment becomes too comfortable and doesn't have the gravity of actual safety, Scorpio will find the imbalance by turning things over and finding the difficulty. It's the difference. The Taurus comes into the room and says, oh, the room is clean, let's not do anything. Scorpio comes into the room and says, let's look behind the fridge. And then we find a whole world of opportunity to do some, let's call it shadow work. Now, with the sun in Taurus, we discussed this video. Check out that video if you'd like to get a sense of that, because understanding the sun's transit of this particular season is going to give us the flavor upon which we're going to be contrasting now with the moon in the sign of Scorpio. Knowing that the moon in Scorpio specifically has a debilitated effect. Now, this word debilitation, exaltation, are words that represent the particular planet's strength or weakness depending on the zodiac sign they find themselves in. And the moon is debilitated in the sign of Scorpio. Why? Because Scorpio is change. Scorpio is transformation. Scorpio is unsettled. And as a result, the moon, which wants to be peaceful, the emotional experience which naturally desires peace, the feminine energy, the mother wants to be at peace and calm, is now facing this constant transformation of Scorpio. Now, that's not to say that any moon in Scorpio will be bad because it's debilitated. No, the moon in Scorpio will be challenged. And that challenge is of great benefit, because if everything is constantly easy, how will we evolve? How will we develop? That's why the challenging environment of Scorpio is actually ideal for the moon to overcome its difficulties. And as a result, rise higher in our evolution. One of the things that we tend to mistake when looking at astrology is, oh, a person has exalted signs. That means they're just a better person than us, or they have better placements, or they have all these nice placements that look like they've been put together by this beautiful artist, a bouquet of just awesomeness. And we think, wow, this person's chart is just so much better than I could never be as good as them. So therefore, they're a better person. And me, with my debilitated sign or weak placements, I am less capable. No. The difference is the work, the curriculum is structured differently. For one with an exalted sign, they still have to deal with the weak points of an exalted sign. For example, the sun in an exaltation will naturally be confident and strong, but also arrogant. and hard-headed, right? And the sun in a debilitated placement will be argumentative, unsettled, difficulty with authority, but also have natural humility and ability to put your ego second, witness things from a level of empathy and acceptance and consciousness. So with the moon in Scorpio, we are now experiencing this dynamic. This full moon is not just taking place in the sign of Scorpio, but within Scorpio in the lunar mansion known as Anuradha. Anuradha represents the lotus flower. Why? Because Scorpio is known to be the dark center of the zodiac reality. And where does the lotus flower grow from? From the dark, muddy waters at the bottom of the river. And from there, the stem makes its way up to blossom on the surface. So this Scorpio reality is a very ideal place for this lotus flower to bloom. And this lotus flower needs to make its way all the way through the water to then come to the light and bloom. Now, this Anuradha is very specific because the greatest grievance, the greatest challenge of Scorpio is its natural tendency to want to possess. Especially towards romantic partners or partners in general, Scorpio can be very possessive. And there's many jokes that are made towards Scorpios in the realms of being lovers or in the realms of being partners, is that they're quite possessive. And in this, we do not now blanket Scorpio with this reality. Rather, we see that within Scorpio is Anuradha, which is the lotus flower, and the highest virtue of ultimate devotion is manifested from this placement of Scorpio. Naturally, this can also be seen as the ultimate martyrdom, to be able to launch oneself into sacrifice for one's beloved, which has its time, place, and circumstance. But here, in the sign of Scorpio, in the lunar mansion of Anuradha, we want to find this ability to selflessly develop devotion towards our beloved, towards our community, towards our friend, whatever area Scorpio is representing in your chart. During this full moon, find a way to offer that devotion without attachment or control. And this is very challenging for the Scorpio, but once achieved, you are now leveling up and experiencing a greater abundance of possibility and resource than one who may already have a strong or more favorable astrological placement, because now you're doing the work that you were set out to do. So during this Anuradha time, this Anuradha full moon, we want to find a way to achieve a devotion rather than a possessive love. And in that, the Lord of Anuradha, the deity of Anuradha, is Mitra, which is the Lord of friendship. If we understand at the very heart of every single relationship, be it parental, intimate, or even professional, friendship is the key. What is friendship? It's a well-wisher, someone who wants you to succeed. And in that, the relationship or the way that we support the other to succeed is relative to the nature of our relationship. But at the heart of it is, I want you to succeed. And one of the greatest challenges is remembering that in a relationship there are two people. Not only that is my responsibility, but it's also my need to succeed. And this win-win dynamic is something that's very important. And in there you find the balance, because only in that possibility of win-win dynamic can we genuinely support the other individual to continue to thrive. So with this Anuradha, let's be very aware that yes, though the moon is debilitated in Scorpio, within the Anuradha, it is now the time to elevate and bring to light. Now, when looking at the moon in this placement, focusing on our own internal reality, our own internal struggle, the moon shining this very compassionate light of being full, illuminated by a sun who is, yes, combusting Jupiter and Venus, but flavored by Jupiter and Venus, the two healers of the sky. It is a most powerful and fertile time to do healing of shadow work. Become aware. Let that gentle light of the moon, that gentle filter of the full moon being illuminated by this intense sun from Taurus, bring awareness to where further work can be done. We say, hey, the room is clean. And now our gentle mother says, oh, is it really clean? Come, let me show you. And she moves perhaps the duvet from our bed and shows all the toys that we've been stuffing underneath the bed. And says, you see, it's not clean. And then she explains how having these toys here or leaving our food here that we didn't finish our dinner, we just stuffed that plate under the bed, how it's drawing animals and insects and how it can create illness. And that compassionate explanation of the full moon, of the kind mother, allows us to then witness and process that without shame. right? A harsher individual, father maybe comes in and is like, look, there's a plate under there, it's dirty, etc. And then now we just feel shame around it and deal with it, pulling it out. And in bringing it out, all these different insects or things that may have been under the bed are now coming out, and it's becoming very uncomfortable. But with the kind compassion of the full moon in this placement, we can actually process it gently and be able to overcome this, be able to purify, and then create a new environment where further development may take place. So this time to be able to do shadow work is extremely powerful. And it's not that the shadow work will take place today on the full moon and then it's all going to be done. No, now is a great time to begin. And how long it takes is however long it takes for us to clean that space under the bed, to then rest well and be able to be revitalized and enter our life and create new patterns and new possibilities, new flavors of relationship. The opportunity to rebirth or re-begin something from the space of shadow work now is extremely potentialized by this full moon in Scorpio. Now, one of the important things to keep in mind with the full moon in Scorpio is the intensity and complexity of the full moon and sun. Anytime we find the sun in Scorpio, moon in Taurus, or moon in Scorpio, sun in Taurus, then anytime we see the sun or moon or rising or moon or sun and rising in this transit, there's an extreme complexity that takes place. And being able to navigate this complexity only empowers it, because now in that extremity, we have extremity of resource rather than extremity of trouble or challenge, right? So if we are able to find the balance during this Scorpio full moon, and naturally the movement that follows until the new moon, which is then going to take place in an exalted placement, right? Because now the new moon will take place directly across the sky where the sun is currently in Taurus, and we're going to have a new moon that's going to take place with the exalted features of Taurus. So we want to very much bring in this Scorpio full moon to our deeper self, to the areas of ourselves that may perhaps have been in denial about, or that we haven't felt comfortable to approach, and allow it to stir these waters that have been stagnant for a long time, and see if we can cultivate an environment where that lotus of devotion may bloom. We hope that this video supported you with some reflections and some value to come forward, especially in your relationships, with more compassion, more empathy, more devotion, and find ways that you can serve rather than how you may be served by your partner. There's a beautiful quote that I'd like to end with, and that is that love means giving more than you take. We look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, always wishing you well.